Modern Egypt is a land of deep history and dazzling diversity, but one question still sparks debate in classrooms, communities, and online. Are modern Egyptians truly the descendants of ancient Egyptians? To answer this, we must go beyond assumptions and beyond borders, into the archives of science, the testimony of African scholars, and the voices of the people who live along the Nile. This is not just a genetic question, it is a spiritual and cultural one. Because to understand the truth about Egypt, you must understand how power shapes memory, and how memory shapes identity. When people ask if modern Egyptians are descended from the ancients, they are really asking three things. Is there biological continuity? Is there cultural continuity? And perhaps more importantly, who has the right to claim Egypt's legacy? These questions are often clouded by politics, nationalism, religion, and race, and they've been weaponized by colonial historians, Afrocentrists, Arab nationalists, and Western academics alike. So today, we try to do what few dare to present the evidence fairly from all sides. Let's begin with one of the most powerful voices in this debate, Cheikh Anta Diop. Born in Senegal in 1923, Diop was not just a historian, but also a physicist and linguist. He understood that to reclaim Africa's past, he needed to approach it scientifically and culturally. Diop argued that ancient Egypt was a black African civilization not only geographically, but in cultural, biological, and linguistic identity. He noted that ancient Egyptian civilization arose in Northeast Africa, not the Middle East. The features seen on statues and tomb paintings, broad noses, full lips, and darker skin, reflected tropical African phenotypes. He conducted melanin dosage tests on Egyptian mummies to detect the level of pigmentation, and found results consistent with black populations. He found deep linguistic connections between ancient Egyptian and West African languages like Wolof. In his defining work, The African Origin of Civilization Myth or Reality, Diop challenged Europe's version of African history. The history of Black Africa will remain suspended in air and cannot be written correctly until African historians dare to connect it with the history of Egypt. At the 1974 UNESCO Symposium in Cairo, Diop presented his evidence, and Western scholars could not scientifically refute him. His approach, using radiocarbon dating, anthropology, and comparative linguistics, was far ahead of its time. Diop wasn't just theorizing, he was providing tools to decode Africa's stolen history. Yet despite the evidence, Diop's work was largely ignored or dismissed in Western academia for decades, but his legacy remains a foundation for African-centered historical scholarship. Decades after Diop's claims, in 2017, a large-scale genetic study reignited the debate. Researchers analyzed mummies from Abusir el-Melek in Middle Egypt. Published in Nature Communications, the study revealed genetic links to Levantine and Anatolian populations, less sub-Saharan ancestry than modern Egyptians. Many headlines misinterpreted it as a contradiction of Diop's thesis. But let's unpack the limitations. The study sampled only one region, already heavily influenced by foreign empires. Only 3 complete genomes were recovered. No data from Upper Egypt or Nubia, the true cradle of Egyptian civilization. It focused on later periods, not the Old Kingdom or pre-dynastic Egypt. And sub-Saharan ancestry increasing over the past 2,000 years doesn't erase ancient roots. It shows historical migration and blending. Even the researchers warned against drawing racial conclusions. Identity in ancient Egypt was about land, loyalty, and language, not skin tone. Far from disproving Diop, the study emphasized just how complex and layered Egypt's history truly is. Egypt was never isolated. From its earliest days, it sat at the convergence of 3 continents, Africa, Asia, and Europe. Its geography made it a natural magnet for trade, migration, and conquest. Throughout its long history, Egypt absorbed waves of outsiders. The Hyksos, who introduced new military technologies, the Libyans, who later ruled as pharaohs, the Nubians, who restored Egypt's spiritual traditions in the 25th dynasty, the Assyrians, Persians, Greeks, and Romans, the Arabs, who brought Islam and a new language. With each wave, Egypt didn't vanish. It adapted, blending old and new into a uniquely Egyptian culture. Even today, Egypt reflects this mosaic. Arab, Berber, Nubian, Turkish, and African influences swirl together. Rather than ask who replaced whom, it's more accurate to say, Egypt evolved, Egypt absorbed, Egypt endured. Upper Egypt, from Luxor to Aswan, remains a vital link to ancient roots. Here, farmers still irrigate their land using Nile rhythms. Faces resemble the carvings of ancient gods. Oral traditions echo pharaonic beliefs. Anthropologists find similar facial structures, darker pigmentation consistent with ancient representations. Agricultural tools and techniques largely unchanged. In Nubia, the legacy is even stronger. Music, dance, architecture, and even community organization mirror that of pharaonic times. While northern Egypt changed through foreign waves, Upper Egypt and Nubia remained guardians of ancient continuity, culturally and genetically. They don't just remember Egypt's past, they embody it. Race is a modern concept, foreign to the ancient world. The Egyptians depicted themselves as reddish-brown, Nubians as darker, Libyans as pale. But these weren't judgments, they were visual languages of identity, not hierarchy. To be Egyptian wasn't about race, it was about worshipping the gods of the Nile, speaking the sacred tongue, and living within the harmony of Ma'at. Western colonial narratives later twisted these meanings to justify conquest and whitewashing. Statues were recarved, art was reinterpreted, and Egypt was detached from Africa. Diop exposed this manipulation. Colonization not only steals your land, but also your memory. Restoring the African identity of Egypt doesn't erase its diversity, it liberates its truth. You don't need DNA to trace a people's legacy. In Egypt, traditional homes mirror ancient blueprints. Birth and death rituals echo pharaonic spirituality, and proverbs, recipes, and social customs persist through oral history. Cultural memory survives in motion, in the gestures of elders, in lullabies, in how a pot is shaped or a prayer is whispered. The genes may have mixed, but the soul of Egypt remains. They are the children of the Nile. Some bear Arab features, others Nubian or Mediterranean. But all carry fragments of Egypt's story. No nation is a replica of its past, but that doesn't mean the past is lost. Modern Egyptians are an evolution, a mosaic of influences, and in their blood and culture the ancient spirit still flows. In the end, the question isn't just who the modern Egyptians are, it's whether we're brave enough to seek truth without fear, without bias, and without agenda. Yes, ancient Egypt was African. Yes, modern Egypt is diverse. And yes, the truth is complex, but all the more beautiful because of it. History doesn't belong to those who shout the loudest, it belongs to those who listen longest, and if you listen closely, the Nile still whispers its truth.